So my name is Tobias Linné. I'm a scholarly activist. I'm a university teacher in Sweden and also a researcher. And I study critical animal studies there, which is a field of study that looks at, try to change the relation between humans and animals. And so I have some colleagues here in Taiwan who are also interested in these issues. And they invited me to come for 2 weeks. So I've been in Kaohsiung and in Hsinchu and in Taipei doing some lectures and workshops, meeting with activists and other scholars. And one of the activists told me about this manifestation here today.
So you know what happened here and what do you think about it?
Yeah, so I heard a lot about it during my time here, about the so-called problem with stray dogs and how they're speaking to people, like how they're supposedly killing wildlife. So I wanted to come here because I think it's absolutely ridiculous to, try to criminalize people who are helping animals. I think it's really a shame, to be honest. I've seen this in other countries as well. So, for example, in New Zealand, where they also have a lot of discussion about invasive species. There is a small animal called a possum that's considered invasive, and it's also, they try to criminalize, people who are helping this animal. So I really think it's bizarre, that you can criminalize an act of compassion to help another animal. And I also want to object the whole talk about invasive species and, killing some animals in order to protect other animals.
So what is the situation in Sweden?
In Sweden, actually, we have a good situation when it comes to street dogs. We almost don't have any street dogs. And that's because we have quite hard, requirements to buy a dog. So you need to register. All the dogs have like ID chip marking. So actually, I don't think I've ever seen a street dog in Sweden. That's only for dogs, though. For cats, it's actually quite a big problem. But I hope we are discussing now having a similar legislation for cats, so that they need to have an ID number on it. And I think these kind of, when you do these kind of things, that sort of helps, the problem, because when it becomes much harder to get a dog and you have to register, etc., then, the problem sort of disappears.
So if there's a government official coming out now, what would you say to them?
I would ask them to reconsider this, because I think, like I said, I think there are better ways of dealing with this problem that are less violent, and I think I don't want to say Sweden is such a great country, but in this case, I think they could look to Sweden, because, like I said, we don't have any street dogs. And that's because we have a legislation that requires everyone who owns a dog to register that dog and, give the dog an ID number. So every dog has an ID, basically.
So ironically, we do have.
Okay.
But the government didn't
so
put a strict.
Then they need to really respect that and follow up on that, and enforce it.
They didn't enforce it.
No, and I think that's what you say. It's funny that you say, because I think it's quite typical, Like many countries have a lot of animal protection laws, but the laws is one thing, It's just words on a paper. Like as long as you don't do anything about it, a paper doesn't, matter. Yeah.
And the last question is that we talk about snare that I just mentioned to you. Do you have that kind of thing in Sweden, in the mountain?
No, we don't. I'm not an expert on this, but I believe it's illegal to use these kind of snares. And I think the reason is because you cannot, if you put out a snare like that, you cannot control, what to catch. And of course, I think it's just as bad to kill a native animal as to kill a so-called invasive animal. But hunters, of course, want to be able to control what animal they can kill. So no, and I think the indiscriminatory killing and capturing of animals like that it should be outlawed, definitely. And I mean, the amount of suffering that it causes is just immense, I think, for animals who get caught in these snares.
Any question or any statement you want to say to anyone you think about?
I just want to say, I think in Taiwan you have such a great animal rights and animal protection movement. It's been really inspiring to be here, for me to see you do things in a unique way here. You have a unique perspective, and then at the same time, I think we are united by many questions, across the world. So I lived in the US, I lived in New Zealand, and I lived in Sweden, and I worked with animal rights in all of these countries. And I can see so many similarities, but I also think you have a unique way of doing things here in Taiwan, and it's very, very uplifting. And despite the horrors that we are talking about, it's been very uplifting to see the Taiwanese animal rights movement. So keep fighting is what I want to say.